One game on this list copied another game and went on to make billions. Another one borrowed from two games at once and walked away with Game of the Year. Then there's the game that copied a Warcraft mod and built one of the biggest esports on the planet. Copying works. Sometimes it works incredibly well. These are 15 copycat games that were flat out better than the originals. Let's get into it right now. Number 15, Minecraft. Alright, so here's a fact that genuinely breaks people's brains. Minecraft, the best-selling video game ever made, over 300 million copies sold, started as a clone. Like Notch himself said it, called it an Infiniminer clone. That's his words, not mine. So what was Infiniminer? It was a little block-based mining game made by a guy named Zach Barth in 2009. First person, blocky graphics, you dig stuff. People loved it. Then the source code leaked, the whole thing fell apart, and Barth just moved on. Meanwhile, Notch had been playing it with some friends online and thought, yeah, I can take this somewhere. He mixed it with Dwarf Fortress, Dungeon Keeper, and his own abandoned project and had a working prototype in under a week. Under a week. Infiniminer is basically a historical footnote now. Minecraft is a cultural institution that kids use as their first creative outlet. That's the gap we're talking about here. Barth didn't fail exactly, he just stopped. Notch did not stop. Number 14, League of Legends. Okay, so this one has a story that is honestly more interesting than most video games. Dota started as a fan mod for Warcraft 3. Nobody got paid. Nobody owned anything cleanly. It was just passionate modders building something incredible for free. And two of the main guys behind it, Steve Gwinsu Feek, who built Dota All-Stars, and Steve Pendragon Mescon, who ran the community website, they eventually connected with Riot Games not long after it was founded in 2006. Riot's founders loved Dota so much, they literally built a company just to make a professional version of it. And 3 years later, League of Legends came out. Same bones. 5 versus 5, 3 lanes. Destroy the base. But they stripped out everything that made Dota miserable for new players. Free to play, better matchmaking, faster games, cleaner everything. The Dota community itself hyped the launch because they were tired of the old engine's limitations. By 2018, the League World Championship had 44 million unique viewers. Dota built the entire genre from scratch. League of Legends turned it into one of the biggest esports on the planet. That's wild. Number 13, Fortnite Battle Royale. Look, Epic wasn't even subtle about this. In their own announcement blog post, they literally wrote that they love Battle Royale games like PUBG. Just said it out loud. PUBG Corporation was not happy. They filed a lawsuit in South Korea in January 2018. Dropped it 6 months later because, and this is important, you genuinely cannot copyright a game mode. Especially one neither of them invented. But here's what actually happened in the real world while the lawyers were arguing. Fortnite went free to play. PUBG didn't. And apparently Epic's CCO Donald Mustard came up with the whole concept, including the battle bus, that flying bus that drops everyone in during a 3-hour Uber ride to a Disney meeting. Sketched the entire thing on one page. That one page of ideas turned into a game that made $126 million in a single month by February 2018. The first month it beat PUBG's revenue. Oh, and the building mechanic? That's entirely Fortnite's own thing. PUBG doesn't have that. So yeah, the Battle Royale format was borrowed. Pretty much everything else was theirs. Number 12, Cities, Skylines. The 2013 SimCity reboot was a disaster. Like a genuine, historic, spectacular disaster. EA launched it with always online DRM. The servers immediately fell over because nobody could actually get in. And then, this is the part, EA tried to say the tiny city sizes were an intentional design choice. Not a technical limitation, a choice. Fans were furious, and they remembered. 2 years later, Colossal Order shipped Cities, Skylines, and they didn't even pretend it was something else. It was the SimCity game the reboot should have been. Same foundation, roads, zoning, utilities, watch your city grow. but with massive maps, full mod support, deep traffic simulation, and zero internet requirement. The traffic system alone became its own thing. People started calling it a traffic simulator with a city building wrapper around it, and honestly, that's accurate. It's not wrong. SimCity has been completely silent ever since. EA hasn't said a word about bringing it back. Colossal Order just owns that space now, and they got there by doing the one thing EA refused to do, actually giving players what they asked for. Number 11. Resident Evil 1. So Capcom invented the phrase survival horror to market Resident Evil. Smart, but it was still just marketing. Because Alone in the Dark from 1992 was already doing this exact thing. Fixed camera angles, 3D character in a haunted mansion, pick a male or female protagonist, tank controls, mixed combat with puzzles. That's 1992. Resident Evil came out in 1996, and the Resident Evil developers have never directly said we copied Alone in the Dark, but I mean, come on. Look at them side by side. The thing is, though, this comparison actually matters, because Alone in the Dark has some cool Lovecraftian ideas on paper, but actually playing it? It's rough. Even for 1992, the controls are a nightmare, the puzzles stop everything dead with these massive walls of text you have to sit through, and the combat just isn't fun. Resident Evil 1 feels like people who genuinely understood what makes a game work actually built it. Puzzles breathe. Pacing is sharp. Notes are short. The whole thing flows. Alone in the Dark drew the map. Resident Evil 1 built the city on top of it. Number 10. Saints Row 2. The first Saints Row got written off almost immediately as a cheap GTA clone. And look, fair. At the time, that was kind of true. But by Saints Row 2, Volition made a very deliberate call: stop trying to be GTA and go in the complete opposite direction. And they said it publicly. When people asked about releasing Saints Row 2 at almost the same time as Grand Theft Auto 4, lead producer Greg Donovan said directly that GTA was heading in a more realistic direction and there was room for more than just one game in the genre. And he was right. GTA 4 went gritty and cinematic and serious. It was genuinely trying to be a crime drama. Saints Row 2 went completely unhinged in the best way. Deep character customization, including your walking style and voice pitch. Full co-op through the entire story. Side missions where you coat the city in sewage from a septic truck. It's a sandbox that just trusts you to find the fun yourself instead of scripting everything. GTA 4 is the better made game technically. Saints Row 2 is more fun. Those are different things and the difference matters. Number 9. Shadow of Mordor. Here's one that doesn't get talked about as a copycat but absolutely should. Shadow of Mordor took its combat system directly from Batman Arkham. Like the design director Michael DePlatter said at San Diego Comic-Con, that Arkham was the game that definitely was a big inspiration for us. The parkour came from Assassin's Creed. A former Assassin's Creed 2 developer even said publicly that some of the climbing looks suspiciously familiar. And here's the genuinely wild part that most people don't know. Shadow of Mordor originally was a Batman game. There was a canceled project codenamed Apollo that Monolith was building in the Christopher Nolan Batman universe. That got scrapped and turned into Middle-earth instead. And the Nemesis system, the actual brilliant thing that made the game special, was born from a sales problem. WB noticed Batman Arkham Asylum was getting bought, finished, and immediately resold secondhand. They wanted a mechanic that made players keep the disc, so the team built enemies that remembered everything. Orcs who beat you came back promoted and scarred. A system made to solve a used games problem accidentally became one of the most innovative mechanics in gaming history. Number 8. Stardew Valley. Concerned Ape, that's just one guy by the way, Eric Barone, has never hidden this. He made Stardew Valley because he loved Harvest Moon, and the PC farming game he wanted didn't exist. Harvest Moon had been running for years but almost entirely on Nintendo platforms. PC players had nothing. So he spent 4.5 years building it by himself. And he didn't just copy the formula either. He fixed everything that frustrated Harvest Moon players for years. Inventory management, relationship pacing, seasonal flow, combat in the mines that actually felt good. Every improvement reads like a direct answer to an old complaint. And then the post-launch support happened. Years of free updates. All updates free. One game, done right. New systems just kept appearing for free. The Harvest Moon franchise had actually split into 2 competing series by this point because of a licensing dispute. So the original franchise is kind of a mess. And this one guy walked in, did what they'd been doing for decades, and just did it better. Stardew Valley has sold over 30 million copies. One person. 4.5 years. 30 million copies. That's the whole story. Number 7. Call of Duty. Okay, so this one's actually kind of a crazy story. Call of Duty isn't really a copycat in the normal sense. It's closer to the same team making the sequel to a game they couldn't put their name on anymore. All 22 founding members of Infinity Ward had worked on Medal of Honor Allied Assault before they left and signed with Activision. So the first Call of Duty is basically what you'd get if the people who made Allied Assault immediately went and made the next one. World War II setting, cinematic set pieces, infantry combat, it's all there. The references shifted from Saving Private Ryan to Band of Brothers and Enemy at the Gates, but the foundation is identical. What actually changed was feel. Call of Duty gave players sprinting, leaning, prone, and aiming down sights in a way that made every combat moment feel like a genuine choice. In the multiplayer, Allied Assault's multiplayer was completely forgotten. Nobody talks about it. Call of Duty's multiplayer became one of the biggest entertainment franchises on Earth. Same people, different name, better game. That's just what happened. Number 6, Palworld. So Palworld launched in January 2024, and within days it was breaking Steam records. Over 1 million concurrent players. And yes, the creature-catching structure, the PAL designs that people immediately compared to existing Pokemon, the whole premise, none of that exists without context. Nintendo definitely agreed because they filed a patent infringement lawsuit against developer Pocket Pair. But then something interesting came out. Reporting suggested Nintendo had actually modified existing patents after Palworld already launched in order to make the lawsuit work. That detail changed how a lot of people saw the whole situation. And here's the actual context. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet came out not long before this, and that game, from one of the most valuable franchises in history, launched with frame rate drops and pop-in and performance issues that would be embarrassing from any studio. Palworld just runs. It has real-time combat with your creatures, base building, automation systems, an actual survival loop, all the things people have been asking Pokemon to add for years. In 2024, Palworld delivered it. Make of that what you will. Number 5, Hollow Knight. Team Cherry were upfront about this. Metroid, Zelda 2, Mega Man X, Faxanadu, those are the games they grew up with and wanted to revisit through their own lens. And here's something that genuinely surprised people when it came out. Co-director William Pellin had not played Dark Souls when they were making Hollow Knight, which matters because everyone immediately compared the two. The gloomy atmosphere, the cryptic storytelling, losing your currency at your death point and having to go get it back, all of it. Turns out those similarities were just convergent design. Two games arriving at similar ideas from different directions. What Team Cherry actually built was a Metroidvania in a hand-drawn underground insect world with atmosphere and world-building density that most AAA studios with full budgets can't match. Hallownest is one of the most haunting game worlds ever constructed. The game sold over 15 million copies, and its sequel Silksong became one of the most anticipated games in the industry despite years of almost complete silence from the developers. Hollow Knight didn't invent anything. Metroid invented the structure. Symphony of the Night refined it. Hollow Knight mastered it. Number 4, Bayonetta. This one is almost unfair to call a copycat because the director of Bayonetta is Hideki Kamiya, the same guy who directed the original Devil May Cry in 2001. So what you have is the literal creator of a genre coming back to it almost a decade later. Female lead this time, hair-based weapons, angels instead of demons, gothic architecture, completely over-the-top cutscenes, and intentional references to Devil May Cry scattered throughout the whole game. Kamiya has talked about this openly. It's a deliberate conversation with his own earlier work. But Bayonetta also introduced Witch Time, a precision dodge window. Hit it correctly and everything around you slows down and you get a punish window. That mechanic became one of the most widely copied things in character action games over the past 20 years. Like almost every major action game since has some version of it. Devil May Cry 4 before Bayonetta arrived was padded, repetitive, and felt unfinished honestly. Bayonetta came out sharper, more confident. DMC5 eventually answered it brilliantly, but for a while there, Bayonetta was basically holding up the entire genre by herself. Number 3, Hades. So Supergiant Games had made 4 games before Hades. Bastion, Transistor, Pyre, then this. And every single one started from scratch with completely new systems. For Hades, they broke that rule on purpose. Creative director Greg Kasavin has talked openly about drawing from The Binding of Isaac, Spelunky, and FTL when designing it. And the problem they were trying to solve was real. Traditional roguelikes are built around punishment. You get better or you stay stuck. The narrative is basically nothing because every run resets. So Supergiant asked, what if dying was the story? What if every failed run advanced dialogue, deepened relationships, revealed more about the world? And that one question changed everything. The result was a roguelike where the loop itself, run, die, go home, try again, is the actual narrative engine. Gods who give you powers are characters you build real relationships with over dozens of runs. And here's the thing, Hades did not just make a good roguelike, it accidentally invented a subgenre. At the 2021 DICE Awards when Supergiant won Best Action Game, Kasavin said that felt genuinely surreal, because when they were making it, they just thought they were making a roguelike. Number 2, Shadow Tactics. Mimimi Games, and they shut down in 2023, which genuinely hurts to say, were never shy about what Shadow Tactics was. It's a Commandos game. It's a Desperados game. The UI is almost identical. Multiple team members with different abilities, massive levels, enemy vision cones, silent eliminations, careful planning required for every single move forward. All of that came directly from those older games. What Mimimi brought was the polish and precision the genre hadn't seen in over a decade. Because Commandos and Desperados had both just gone quiet. Nobody was keeping this very specific type of game alive. Shadow Tactics walked in and filled that hole. Feudal Japan's setting is completely different aesthetically, but mechanically almost nothing changes. The vision cones work the same. The ability types map across almost directly. What made it special was care. There's even a little quick save reminder timer that tells you to save if you haven't recently. Tiny thing. But it shows these developers understood every frustration this genre carried and specifically addressed it. They knew what to keep and what to fix. The result was arguably the best game in a genre they did not create. Number 1, Gears of War. Cliff Bleszinski has said this himself so many times there's no point pretending it's a secret. Kill Switch, 2003. Namco game. It had one central mechanic: walk up to any object, tap a button, snap in the cover, blind fire over the top, lean out to aim properly. Simple, clean, and in 2003 genuinely new. Bleszinski saw it and built an entire game around what that one mechanic could become with Epic Games' full resources behind it. Everything else in Gears, the setting, the characters, the lore, the tone, that's all original, but the cover system is kill switch and Bleszinski has never denied it. What Gears did with it, though, was make it the philosophical center of the entire game. Every single combat arena was designed around the assumption that players would seek cover first. Chest-high walls became a meme because Gears deliberately built every space around them. And then the whole industry followed. Uncharted, Mass Effect, The Last of Us, Spec Ops: The Line. The cover-based third-person action game owned an entire console generation. All of it traces back to Gears, and Gears traces back to Killswitch. Killswitch got there first. Gears of War built the genre. That's the whole thing. And that's all for today. Leave a comment. Tell us which one surprised you most. If you like this, hit subscribe. We upload new videos every day. See you next time.